How is it cracking, guys? First things first, thank you for bearing with me past the last 2 months or so, and I'm happy to announce that I'm more or less done with my exams, meaning that we can get back to regular schedule. I'm not promising you one upload per week, because you know, every semester at university is more and more demanding and I just can't put as much time into Pokemon as I used to, but when I do have time to play it, some amazing battles such as the one I'm bringing you today come out of it. This battle was taken just yesterday, and as you can see, thanks to recently released Pokebank, I'm using entirely new team that is at the same time one of my oldest, a team with history should I say, a team that never fails to deliver stunning performances. If you want to see what I'm talking about, click the links in the description to see other battles with it. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Joan Jett with her companion are back on the stage. My opponent is just a random passerby by the name of GetaX. He has also taken advantage of Pokebank and brought a hit run, so overall his team looks very nicely balanced and thought out, so we are in for a good show. Let's get started. I lead off with Tornadoes, thinking that if his Skarmory happens to be a Spike Sled, I can shut it down with a Taunt and then switch to Bronzong to check it. He however just throws in this massive threat on the leading spot, and the last thing I want is to taunt that beast. So without taking any chances, I go straight to Bronzong, but he U-turns out predicting that, which tells me two things, that he is choiced in some way and that he knows what he is doing, which is nice for a change after a few crappy battles that I've had beforehand. He goes to Slowbro and I have to decide, do I want this thing poisoned or my Stealth Rocks up more? But because his Sylveon might be carrying a Heal Bell, I figured that I'm better off setting up my rocks, and it later turns out to be a good call, because they do indeed play a huge role in this battle. In exchange however, I take a Fire Blast to the face, so after a Citrus Berry I'm at around half, but knowing that Bronzong is pretty much my best answer to his Sylveon, I switch right out to Ludicolo to take another one. But he switches it up to a Scald, and although it does next to nothing, he gets a burn on the first try, which will significantly cut my survivability. Knowing that he isn't gonna stay in, I set up a Rain Dance, because if you didn't notice that by now, this is a manual Rain team. Normally, facing a Grass type wouldn't be a problem for me, but it is a serious problem in case of Mega Venusaur, because Stab Sludge Bomb is gonna ruin my life, and I have just recently replaced an Ice Beam with Leech Seed on this Ludicolo, thinking that I have Tornadoes and Heracross to deal with grass types, but then again, with Mega Venusaur's thick fat ability, it will do a pathetic amount anyway. What I'm saying is, Bronzong is pretty much my only resort against many of his pokes, and without passive leftovers recovery, it's not going to last for long, but defense isn't what this team was meant for, you will soon see. Now, because his Giga Drain doesn't do much to me, his switch to either Slowbro or Skarmory is as obvious as sunrise following the night, and guess who likes facing both of them? Joan Jett, that's who. Choice specs Hydro Pump in the rain, and that's her first, but not the only victim this battle. But knowing that Joan is the best at late game solos, I don't want to abuse her power too early, especially knowing that Sylveons have beastly special defense and can do a huge amount of damage with a stab move of choice, as it turns out to be Pixelated Hyper Voice. Now with his Skarmory gone, I know that he will most likely go to Hitran to take either Toxic or Gyro Ball from my Bronzong, which is why I go for an Earthquake, but he survives it even after Stealth Rock damage and is able to get up rocks of his own before I finish him off, but the only thing on my team that is really crippled by them is Tornadoes, and the only thing I need Tornadoes for against this particular team is setting up priority 8 turn Rain Dance late game, so I feel like Stealth Rocks are more of a problem for his than for my team. Anyway, back comes Slowbro, and although Bronzong is my best answer to Sylveon, I know that it's too low on health to effectively wall it, so I just stay in because I'm pretty sure that I can live one more Scald from him, and I do with 11 HP left, allowing me to Toxic him. It is nice to have 31 IVs all around again, let me tell you. I decide to save Bronzong as a death fodder and switch to Ludicolo to take another Scald, but he predicts that and once again switches it up to Psyshock, though it still doesn't do very much, so even after burn damage, I am able to take another one and set the Drain back up. Then I go for a Scald rather than Giga Drain, predicting his switch to Sylveon, but even with a crit it does only around 30%, I just want you to keep that damage output in mind for later. My Leech Seed unfortunately misses, allowing him to set up a Wish, So then I just go for a Giga Drain in case he tries to pass it to Slowbro and pretty much let him take me out. Right there I was thinking for a good while what to do, of course keeping the time limit in mind this time, and decided to go back to Kingdra, because I have Tornadoes to deal with Venusaur, Raikou to deal with Slowbro, and Scarfed Heracross to deal with Diggersby. All I need is this thing below half, so that Heracross can finish it off with Adamant Earthquake, and I'm good to go from there. The reason I wanted you to keep Ludicolo's cold damage output in mind is because now you can compare it to the damage dealt by Joan Jett without a crit. Just to remind you, this is a max HP, max special defense Sylveon. God damn, that is a lot of power. He probably wasn't expecting it to do that much either, hence he just tries to Toxic Stall me rather than going for a damage with a Hyper Voice, but because my reign has just ended, I decide to switch to Raikou, predicting him to try Wish Stalling me. He however decides to go straight for a Hyper Voice instead, because of which I'm only able to set up the Rain Dance before going down, but now Joan has another 5 turns to rock and roll, and after another Hydro Pump, even if he takes me out, Sylveon will be at a very revengeable range, and that's all I want. Knowing that, he switches to Slowbro only to realize that resistances no longer matter against such humongous power, so he has no choice but to switch back and forth to stall out my rain. Luckily for him, I miss another Hydro Pump, you know, even Joan needs a break from time to time, and because I'm not enjoying racking up toxic damage, I decide that now is a good time to Death Fodder my Bronzong. He double switches to Slowbro and finishes me off with a Psy Shock, but after Stealth Rock and 2 turns of toxic damage he is at the range where the Beetle can easily revenge kill him with a Mega Horn, and since nothing on his team won't be able to take 2 of these, I know that he has no choice but to let me do that. So after a Moxie boost, it looks like I've got this game in the bag, but that will be too easy, so to spice things up a little, I miss another Mega Horn and huge power return takes me out in one hit. It's all good though, because some of you probably know what's coming. I go to Tornadoes just to set up 8 turn Rain Dance for the last time, and it is time for Joan Jett's final solo. Can she live up the expectations? Can she do some of her magic and pull a victory out of 1 vs 3? We're about to find out, ladies and gentlemen. In comes Venusaur, but that Hydro Pump does way too much, another one does not miss, and that's one thing out of the way, 2 remaining. Sylveon, one of the best special walls in the game, is not bulky enough, and Joan Jett survives toxic damage with just 6 HP. This is it, 1v1. Diggersby doesn't have quick attack. The very last Hydro Pump power point will without a fail to demolish the last man standing on the opposing side. This is why Joan Jett is and always will be the star of this team and legend of my battles. That is the game. So what can I say? This was easily the best X and Y battle I've had so far. I was literally screaming with excitement on the last turns. Thank you for the game, GetaX, hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did, and I see you all next time.